Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So, a few weeks back, I did the LED work on this little thing, so I'll leave a link for that video below. But I think it's time to turn this thing into a robot, so come on, let's do it. Alright, so this is the Tic Tac bottle that I wired up a while ago. Got some holes there for the switches. And I'm going to look at this action figure. It's actually a McFarlane toy. I don't know what it is, so if you know in the comments below, let me know. That'd be awesome. But I just wanted to use the legs, and so I was like trying to hack this apart with a knife. It wasn't working, so I just took a little hammer and literally just did a little dink on it, and it popped right open and gave me the legs there. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball. The legs actually have this nice little contour in them, so I'm going to be able to just drill a hole right through there, but I need to get some of these Tic Tac markings off. Just going to take some sandpaper. I used a couple different grits of sandpaper. That's a little too deep, so I'm going to take this Tamiya putty and try and fill that in a little bit. So I'm just globbing it on there, and then I'm going to take an old X-Acto blade and almost kind of smear it around like decorating a cake. The idea is I'll let that dry and then sand that. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and mark out a spot for the legs. So really all I'm doing here is I just did a center line, and then I kind of eyeballed the height of the leg that I want it to be, and then just marked where I'm going to drill my hole. And I was going to use two magnets to put the legs on, but magnets, they're kind of hard to come by and they're not cheap. So I thought, well, what if I put one magnet in the leg and then used a piece of metal in the robot? But these screws, they weren't even magnetic, so I was like, And then I was like, oh wait, I've got all these used X-Acto blades, and it sticks really nice to that. So what if I was able to glue that on the inside? So I think what I'm going to do is drill out some holes here, and then I'm measuring the size of the magnet. I'm going to find my drill bit. If you don't have a caliper, I got this at Harbor Freight. It's like $5 or $6. These things are awesome. It helps me find the correct size drill bit. I'm going to just quickly drill a hole through here. And then what I'm doing is I'm pushing the magnet in, and then I put the razor blade on the inside. Don't worry, I'm going to cover this with hot glue so it won't cut anybody. I'm doing a little dab of super glue first, just so it will hold it. And once I held that in place, I globbed it with hot glue. What was actually kind of cool is the razor blade didn't sit perfectly, so I have a little bit of gap, so that magnet actually slides in a little bit, has a little bit more grip, and man, it holds really tight. Drilled a hole through the leg, and I lined that up just perfectly, held it, let it dry. I'm sanding off this here. It didn't quite work exactly how I was hoping. It actually had quite a bit of sink in it, so I'm gonna go ahead and sand the rest of the body because I'm gonna need that to paint it anyways. That will just help the paint grip and stick onto the plastic housing a little bit better. But you can see there, it's not quite right. I did a primer. You can still see the Tic Tac logo. So what I'm gonna do for this is I'm gonna take some CA glue or super glue, and I'm gonna kind of coat the entire thing, and then I'm gonna take some baking soda and just cover it, and then I should be able to sand all this off, and it will look nice and smooth. So that's all I'm doing here, is just doing some fine sanding. It's a little elbow grease, no big deal. On the front here where the LED is going to be, I got this little Gundam part. Just put a little glue on there. On the top, there was kind of this weird little hole, so I found this Final Faction foot, and I thought, that works pretty nice. Kind of looks like a little vent or something for the top of the head, and it'll kind of help fill out that spot. So as I'm building, I'm always looking and just thinking about what components do I have and how can I fill spots that look weird. And it's kind of this balance of adding just the right amount and not too much and not too little. So I think that worked out pretty nice. I put this in here just so I could show you. I had this Gundam, no, I'm sorry, it's a Final Faction gun. And I actually went through the entire process of building little pegs for this and connecting them. But after all was said and done, and I was looking at them, like at first I thought, this is pretty cool. But the further I got into the build, they were just like way too wimpy for what I wanted. So I had actually done two arms. Actually, I think I'll show that in just a second. Yeah, there's the second arm, and it's too wimpy for the legs. So I was like, So I had this Funko, I think it's a Titan Fallout or something, some video game. I found it at the thrift store, and so I ripped that arm off. It was actually already broken, the lid was missing, so I thought, what if I used this arm? So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this off. And I put this arm on there. I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I like that quite a bit. But now that gun looks super wimpy, so I found in my bits box, I have a whole bunch of weapons, and I think this really looks cool and kind of balances it out. So to get that on there, I am going to do a magnet on the outside, a magnet on the inside, just to help hold that, because I need a good strong grip on that. And then I think I'm going to fill that with a little bit of 2-part epoxy, some milliput in this case. Mix that up nice and good. Push it in there. Smash it in really good. And then I'm just going to smooth that out. And then what I did was just pressed it in. I ended up trimming a little bit more off because it kind of squeezed out, flattened it all out. And that's kind of the end result. So I'm going to let that dry. And then we'll paint that up later. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and work on this gun. I just drilled a little hole, and I used kind of the same peg system as the other guns, and this worked out pretty nice for me. So there's the arm. I'm going to go ahead and glue this in, similar to like I did with the razor blade down at the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit of super glue there. Then I'll just glob a whole bunch of hot glue just to hold that in, and that actually fits really nice, and the magnet's really strong, so it holds. So this is kind of just the dry fit assembly. It's working out pretty cool. And I think painted up, this is going to look great. I need to do a little bit more accessories. So on the back, I want to do a little backpack almost to kind of hide the switch. So this is a little final faction piece. I'm going to trim all these little pieces off, sand it down. And I think that'll make a cool little backpack. And I'm going to put it right over where the switch is going to be. And that'll help kind of camouflage that switch just a little bit. I'm just drilling a hole in the top piece, and then I'm going to take a piece of wire that is just, I think it's old headphone wire. I have a whole box full of scrap wires and stuff that I just clip off and use as needed. So I need this to be a little bit flat so it glues down a little bit easier. It'll just give me a little bit more surface area to glue onto. So I just sanded that down, and yeah, that's going to work out perfect. Now I'm just going to take my X-Acto blade and drill out a little hole so I can drop this wire in, which is connected to that little backpack that I made. I was kind of looking at that and I thought, it's a little wimpy, so I added these 2 extra little wires coming off of that piece. And I'm just going to, again, drill 2 little holes in the back there. That's kind of cool. I might cross those over. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with those just yet, but I was looking at this and I'm like, I don't really love that just going right into the body. So I found this little Gundam piece. I'm going to glue this down, and then I thought it needs something a little bit more, so I just took a little piece of scrap polystyrene. I just kind of curved it just a little bit with even just my thumbnail and just bent that, and it fits right underneath there. And I'm going to straighten this out, and what I actually did was I aligned it so the backpack can go right up against that, and now it kind of feels like this cohesive piece. That drops in there. I'll be able to push the little red wires into those little holes. I think that gives a really cool look. So the more I was looking at the arm, there was a little gap where it attached to the body, and I didn't like it, so I was thinking maybe I could fill it with guitar string, and then I had this headphone wire extra trying to glue that down. I thought, wait a minute, I have some gaskets. So I went and grabbed a gasket, and it fit perfect. And I think once I glue this on, it's really going to hide that gap and make that look a ton better. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I wanted to add a little bit more detailing, so I kind of measured this, did some little pencil marks all the way around, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some small little beads, and I'm going to super glue those all around the edge to look like rivets. I actually found these beads at Michael's on clearance for 59 cents for a giant thing of them, so that's an awesome find. And it's a weird little detail. They look odd in the beginning, like they just look really strange, but once they're primed and painted, it looks amazing. So have to trust the process, right? Here I'm using some guitar string that my buddy gave me. So if you've got a friend that plays a guitar and they have to restring their guitars, use those things. They're awesome. Anyways, yeah, here's the body. and it's looking pretty cool. I think I'm pretty much done with that. I've got the gun with the pegs. I've got the magnet with the legs, the little backpack, the arm. So yeah, this thing's ready to paint. So I'm gonna go prime it and paint. I'll be right back. All right, here it is. Looking pretty cool. I painted the body green, painted the arms and legs silver. And I think what I'm gonna do is, I don't know, I'm gonna just kind of paint it and see what comes to me. Before I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and rough up the body a little bit more, use an X-Acto blade, my thumbnail, and then I'll do another coat of green spray paint over the top of this. And then I'll give a little bit of texture, I think. So I think that'll be nice. I've got a little Citadel green that matches the body. And like I said, I'm gonna paint the arms, and I'm kind of just looking at different areas on the arm and throughout the robot and thinking what looks cool green, what looks cool silver, paint a little green on the gun. And I've noticed there's some black in the gun, so I feel like if I did a little black there on the arm, that'll help tie everything together and almost like a Star Wars kind of figure where the arm meets. Yeah, here's the leg. You can see, like I said, I just kind of painted what felt right to me. There's really no right or wrong reason, so I'm going to do the same with this leg. I'm just going to kind of examine it and think what should be green, what should be black, and kind of mimic the other leg. There's the gun finished up. That's looking great. I mean, I can't complain. So now that that's done, I'm going to do a little bit of chipping. Now, I've done a lot of this in my other videos, so it's literally just taking a little bit of silver Citadel paint and just putting a little tiny dab on the edge of your brush and just nicking along the edges. And you can do this as much as you want or as little as you want. Putting on some tank decals. Now, this I thought was one continuous decal. It was 3 little pieces, so I'm gonna have to align these. I did that a couple times. Here I've got some darker green, and I've never really done this, but I'm kind of playing with a little bit of chipping, and I added a little bit of a brown rust color. And I think in the end this turned out pretty nice. I was a little bit nervous as I was doing it here. And if you know me and my builds, I love my Citadel wash. I love doing washes over things. And this really kind of gives a nice finish over the entire piece. So I'm doing the arm here, and then I just take a paper towel, dab it, wipe it down. I'll put a wash over the entire body. And for me, this just gives that weathering and use look. You know, it's just been used. This Vallejo wash, I've used this a ton of times. It's a nice little rust. Again, I just take a little dab of it, glob it on, pull it down, kind of give it a fast little pull, and then take your finger and you can smear that and just think directionally how it's going. Looks awesome. It's so rewarding and so fun, and it's actually not that hard. I'm gonna throw this light in, and I think we're gonna call this one done. All right, that was a really fun build, and it's kind of cool to make something out of trash and kind of recycled action figure parts. So this is magnetic, that comes off. The legs are magnetic, they come off. Because it's a Tic Tac container, the body actually opens, and I can change the batteries if I wanted to. I got the little LED light there, so that's pretty cool. And, one little feature. This gun actually has a little cannon that shoots, so that's pretty cool. We'll do some turnaround shots of this and go make something awesome. Happy New Year. I hope you're starting out great, and as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.